one of the biggest games in Kirksville's history in the last 30 plus years. What did you think about your boys' performance on Friday?
Obviously, thrilled. We're thrilled for the outcome. It's a good, tough, hard-nosed, old-school football game again, and we've had a couple of those now at home, and our guys have found a way to be successful. And I was not just thrilled for them, the kids on the sideline, everybody, but you were talking off the air on the number of people here for the community, the school community, the community of Kirksville at large. It's been a long time coming, and I was just happy to be a little part of it.
Now, while there were many positives, that first half, personally, I feel like there should have been a lot more points for you guys. What about those missed opportunities in that first half?
Yeah, one, you always have to give your opponent credit and respect those guys because they're a good football team. But no question about it, I felt like with it should have been probably at a minimum of 14-0 and maybe 20-0 at halftime of that ball game. It was a huge decision by their coach to go for it on 4th and 2. Everybody forgets about that. That was a turnover, and our guys capitalized, and we played the entire end on our end from that point out. But we weren't able to capitalize, so that's certainly something that we'll try and shore up, fix what we can fix, at the same time recognizing we're playing a good football team.
That first field goal you guys go for down here gets blocked. What did you think about the kicking game outside of that?
Well, we had a PAT and a field goal blocked. Number 5, jersey 5 for Hannibal was a load up in there. The Hoskins kid, who's just a junior, he's been offered at Northern Iowa, probably more to come. Really good young player. But outside of that, I thought we broke even in the kicking game. We broke even in the rush stat in our plan to win. Those are 2 of the 3 big ones, and the other one is you got to win the turnover takeaway, and we certainly were able to do that.
When you think about that first half, Hannibal didn't punt. They didn't punt because your defense had an interception, 2 forced fumbles, and that turnover on downs. What about that defense were they doing so well on Friday night?
Well, they've continued to play well. I think we've given up 35 points now in 5 games, and our varsity guys have actually given up 28. And one of those touchdowns was after an interception down in the 18, which gave one of our opponents a short field. So they've been playing really good, solid, fundamental defense for a period of time now, and it wasn't any different. The first 3rd and 5 that we turned it over, it was an outside veer right at Bennett Frazier, and Bennett knew what he's supposed to do and made the quarterback make a fast decision, tackled the dive back and the quarterback and put the ball on the ground for us. I think the second one was a tackle down here, I think by Brantley Kotwitz, and Corbin Denslow knocked the ball loose, and Blake Nesbitt all those guys were hustling the ball, and he was Johnny on the spot to pick it up. And then the other turnover was a 4th and 5, which is also a turnover on downs. That was a field goal that, once again, you and I, the coaches, have got to make those decisions and live with it. And they decided to roll the dice and threw it, and a huge interception by Blake Nesbitt, and to snuff that out in a really good return. So we're not in our own shadow, but out the 18. So all 3 of those, along with their turnover on downs out here at midfield, was certainly the difference in that football game.
When you think about your game plan, there were 6 possessions in the game. The entire game.
Right.
First half 4, then they kneel down, but that doesn't really count. And then second half, 2 possessions for both schools, both of them being productive. Was that part of the game plan going in, limiting how many times they could touch the football?
Absolutely. Clock management is huge anyway in all sport, but certainly football, and it actually begins with the opening whistle. And we utilize the 40-second clock for the entire football game. We got a little greedy on one and took a delay of game. It's only the second one on me in however many years I've been a head coach. It's a coaching error, so we've got to get that one corrected, got us behind the chain, but did a really good job of executing the plan.
When you were down here for your second field goal opportunity, it was a 4th and 2, I believe, 4th and 3, something like that. What's your mindset behind going for a field goal versus going for it?
Yeah, playing the long game, knowing that, having great confidence, one, in your defense and take points when you can get them. At that time it was 0-0, I believe, and just getting something on the board so the opponent felt like they were fighting uphill. I felt like the tradition between the two schools and history, from your perspective, I thought it was important that we extend the game into the second half, and it couldn't have worked out better getting those points. And then had a big run by Jace Kent for 31 yards down here on our last drive of the first half, and able to punch it in, I think, with 2 seconds to go, with Carter Pinkerton with the throw from Ryder Lyons and making it 9-0. And now the pressure shifted to the other sideline, just kind of like we talked about a week ago.
Just sticking with that first half, there were 2 plays when you guys were going this way. One to Carter Pinkerton, where he pretty much beat the corner and it was just overthrown by Ryder Lyons. And then a couple drives later, one to Jace Kent, and he kind of bobbled it before he went out of bounds, and he didn't end up catching it. When you're sitting there coaching this game, in a game where points matter, clock management's crucial, those 2 plays, don't go your way. What are you telling Ryder Lyons, even though they were both pretty good balls?
Well, I hard coach everybody, quarterbacks, Jace Kent, but you hard coach them during the week. Your Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. I think Fridays are game days for the kids. They've got enough stress, and so at that point, you're not going to hit them all. That's the reality of it. It's not like we're not trying. And I also felt like, from a confidence standpoint, it's totally different if you're thinking, really believing that you're supposed to be out in front. And I thought that settled down. I thought the throw and catch before the half, great route on that 2-yard hitch versus press coverage. That was impressive by Carter he got 2 yards of separation on a 2-yard route, selling that corner on a corner fade route right there. Really, he got an academy and a really good ball on time, and obviously well protected, all that stuff.
I'm going to bring up another player, another senior for you, Cash Adams. Cash Adams didn't play the full season last year when Coach Creedemeyer was here. Comes back this year and is instrumental to this defense as one of your starting corners. What has he meant to this team and the energy that he brings? Yeah,
he's kind of an emotional and energy leader. He's a passionate, emotional, intense football player. He's you never hear much about him. He's our boundary corner, which is where most of your targets go. And when you don't see him, when you don't notice him at corner, that's a really good thing. He's locked down that side very nicely. And you've also had Grayson Hauser's played over there as well, and Sullivan Clark a little bit out to the wide side. Our corner play has been pretty solid all season, quite honestly.
One thing that Cash kept on saying every single time I would pass him, and he would say it to coaches, he'd say it to players, we're playing with house money. We're playing with house money.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, in our pregame squad meeting on Thursday night, I think things like work ethic, effort, toughness, discipline, those are all character traits that American fans appreciate. And I told our guys, the truth is that you've already captured the hearts of our community because you've displayed those up to this point. So right now you're playing with house money, and I'm not a bettor. In fact, I've played poker one time and I hated it. I think I went with $8 and I went home with $8, and that was enough for me many years ago. But if you were gambling and it was your money that I was betting, it'd be a lot easier. And that's what we were doing. We were playing with house money. They'd already captured our fans, and so now it's really about them on Friday night.
This Friday you face Mexico, and after such an emotional game, how do you make sure that your team doesn't overthink it?
Well, I don't know if I do. You certainly are going to try your best. It's definitely a trap game. You talked about how huge the crowd was for you. They're like, wow, and I've talked to several community members, and you'd be hard pressed to probably find a larger crowd here at Spain Hour in the history of the school. that's not going to be duplicated, and the intensity, the drama, all that goes with that. What's important now is one, trying to get better. 1-0, that mantra. But right now, our kids, if you aim small, you miss small, and they're on the cusp. We're in the driver's seat of North Central Missouri league title, and the last time that Kirksville's had a share of it was 2004, and I think the previous time before that was 1987. So that hasn't happened much. So a win Friday clinches at least a share of that title. And to my knowledge, we'll have to ask Coach Meyer, maybe John McConnell. I'm uncertain that Kirksville's ever won an outright North Central Missouri Conference. So there's certainly plenty of motivation, if that's what you need, other than just the opportunity to compete. And most of us that are competition addicts just like playing. But there's certainly a lot on the line as we head up to Mexico from this team's legacy. That they're trying to accomplish some things that haven't been done perhaps ever, and certainly if they have, not very often.
We're going to talk about someone you might know a little well, Gregg Nesbitt. You might know him a little bit.
Yeah. He used to like his pawpaw.
Well, he's a freshman, and he's starting for you guys, and he is playing some of the best defense on your entire team. I know it's a defensive unit, but he comes up with a lot of big plays that defense kind of forces his way. What has he meant to this defense?
Well, we had a need at linebacker, and I thought he might play up, but he's exceeded whatever expectation I had. He's actually our leading tackler by a large margin through the first 6 games, and he's 6'3", he's 210, runs well, he's passionate about the game, but he's still 14. And sometimes those 14-year-olds are 25, and sometimes they're 8, and everything in between. You see that big body and the maturity. You've really got to temper yourself with the age that he is. But he's done remarkably well, and I think the team itself has done an excellent job. One, bringing in a newcomer, a young kid that's regardless of last name. And then you add the last name, there could certainly be, whether it's jealousies or drama or any of that type of stuff, and he's just been another guy. I've hard coached him. That's why I was kiddingly, he used to like his pawpaw. I'm not certain he likes the coach because I don't have time. Our team doesn't have time for him to be 14, and from a performance standpoint, he's exceeded that.
Mexico, what do they do well that you've seen on film this year?
They're an unorthodox. They run the flex bone that I ran for 5 years at Hickman. It's a tremendous offense. It's probably the favorite offense I've ever been in. It's tremendously team-orientated. It's very difficult to simulate. We're going to go out here on Tuesday. We're taping this on Tuesday morning, and we're going to go out here this afternoon and do our best over the next 3 days to simulate an offense that we're just not going to get there. So playing good sound option defense. They've got companion plays with the toss off of how they affect your 5 techniques, your dive players with some stuff. Coach Haig this isn't his first rodeo with this offense. He knows what he's doing with it. And then defensively, multiple fronts. They base out of the 3-3. They get into a 4-down. They get into a Bears front. They'll blitz linebackers, and they really move people around, which gives you pause. They're a good, solid football team. I'd liken them at the same level as Moberly, and that was a 0-0 game, and with 3 minutes to go, I think Blake blocked a punt, and we scored in the last minute or two to make that 7-0 at half. That was a tight football game and a good football team in Moberly, and that's what you have in Mexico.
And I have 2 last questions for you. So, with all that said, what do you have to do on Friday to leave with a W?
Well, it's always about us. It's never about the opponent. It's the process to earn the right to be confident, if you will, as opposed to arrogance. We got to respect the process of preparation throughout the week, and hopefully we'll grab our young guys' attention. And Chris, as we're taping this, I can't tell you how impressed I've been with the professionalism, the maturity level of a rising young football team. They're hungry. I'll be shocked if they're not out here eager to learn, put that game to bed. We just don't have that luxury as competitors. It's 24 hours, good or bad, and you got to move on. A season's a marathon. It's not a sprint, and I think our young people understand that. And And so it's just preparing every single day, and it really, once again, it's about you and I. It's about how we execute our fronts, our coverages, our offensive plays, our kicking game, all those types of things, and never about the opponent.
You know, I kept on saying that this game versus Hannibal was history versus hope. History was on the side of Hannibal, but hope was on the side of Kirksville, hope that they haven't felt in many years. What do you think hope does for people?
Oh, that's an interesting question. It's certainly, I was going to say it gives you hope, but it's an encouragement. You know, there's always a chance. There's always the sun's always going to come up. You know, and I'll say for the community, I think hope is a good word. There wasn't hope with the guys that were playing the football game. They knew they had a very solid path to victory. We could have easily lost the football game. Hannibal's a good club. They could have easily won the football game. You know, they take away their turnovers and some of their own mistakes if you're on the other sideline. But our kids knew there wasn't just a chance. It was how we went out and performed and didn't turn football over, didn't beat ourselves. You know, most games are lost. They're not won. You know, so that's the first thing you got to do is not lose it. And our guys really understood that and executed the plan. So for us, it was a confidence. I think it wasn't a hope. Our guys really expected to be there.